I want you to do me a favor and picture a man, right? He's 43, maybe 48. He's been through it, man. He's been through divorce, maybe twice. It's pretty common, right? He's been through a career that it took a decade of his life and then laid him off like it was nothing. And he has kids that he sees half the time. And some friends that just faded away. Probably because he stopped being useful to them. He knows what happens when you give everything, right? Everything, and you still end up with nothing. So now he wakes up in the morning begrudgingly, thoughts just racing through his mind as he makes his coffee, and he sits there in the quiet, right? It's so quiet he can hear his breathing. And he doesn't hustle anymore. He doesn't hustle for people who stopped caring, right? He doesn't perform, right? Like he used to. These people aren't paying attention. He's not begging for respect anymore, especially the respect that he knows that he'll never get from certain people. All while the world is watching him and men like him and saying, that man has given up, right? That man has given up. That's what they're saying. And I want to give you some context so you know exactly what's happening here, what I'm talking about. You're sucked in, resonating with what I'm saying. If you've experienced this, many of you have who watch my channel. By the time a man hits his 40s, he's spent somewhere between 15 and 20 years operating and toiling inside this system that told him, it tricked him, it propagandized him to believe what he thought he needed to know and do to earn love and respect from other people, right? To feel belonging, right? He was told to work hard and to be reliable and to not complain. You just got to show up and be useful. And so many men have done exactly that. They followed that blueprint, right? They played by the rules. They gave what was asked of them time and time again. And then somewhere in their late 30s and their early 40s, guess what? The results, they came back. And they were not as advertised. Just think about it, right? You followed the playbook, right? You did everything right. And the ROI, it doesn't even come close, right? You had a marriage fall apart. You had a career that didn't reward you the way it was supposed to, right? It wasn't, you were loyal to the employer, but you were not given that in return. There was no loyalty given back to you, and they canned you. They tossed you. They threw you away like a bottle cap or piece of lint that just needed to be removed to fix their bottom line. And you just think about all these friendships that just evaporated the moment that you stopped being useful. Think about your family, right? How they only call you or they text you maybe once a month when they need something, or just to say that they were there for you, right? And you sit there with all of that. But at some point, you stop blaming yourself for all of that, right? The math isn't mathing anymore. It's not working because the math never worked. right? That playbook was a lie. And the man that figures that out, that man's not giving up. He's waking up. That's what's happening. He's waking up to what's really going on. And I want to be clear about something here, because this conversation, it gets distorted very easily. When I say that men are protecting their peace, I am not talking about men who are bitter and angry at the world. I'm not talking about the men who hate women or hate the world or are sitting somewhere nursing a grudge. Okay? I'm talking about men who have genuinely, quietly, and deliberately just recalibrated their thought process, the way that they see the world, their worldview. They're seeing things with a clarity that they haven't had before, that only time can have an effect on. They looked at what was being asked of them, right? They look at what they were getting in return for what they were putting out. The output versus the input, and they made a decision, I would say a very rational adult decision, and it was to stop spending their resources on people and the systems around them, these various institutions that have demonstrated repeatedly that they do not reciprocate. Okay? That's not giving up. That isn't. That is basic in a lot of cases. If you want to talk from an economic perspective, that's basic financial literacy applied to your own life, all right? You're Dave Ramsey your life or whatever. I don't really like Dave Ramsey. The guy's a total beta, but whatever. My gut just tells me he sucks. But here's what drives me crazy about the way that this gets framed, especially in the media, right? When a man over 40, when he becomes a quieter man, right? A more selective, a more self-contained man, society, they look at that and they pathologize it. They do. It's not status quo. There must be something wrong with him, right? He must be depressed. He must be a danger to himself, right? They run entire articles about the male loneliness epidemic as if every man who stopped calling people he doesn't like, right? Right? Stop going to all these freaking events. He just doesn't participate in it. He doesn't enjoy it. He doesn't enjoy being around certain people, right? He stopped pretending to be excited about things that don't excite him. He's individuated. He's taken off the masks. They act as if all of that is automatically some type of problem, a tragedy of sorts. It's not. These men they're genuinely isolated and struggling, and I'd say that's real and worth talking about, right? There is an element of that, okay? I'm not saying that it's like all men. There are some men that are truly struggling, that are genuinely isolated and struggling, but then there are those that they're fine. They just stop performing, okay? There is a distinguishable difference. There is a massive difference between loneliness and solitude. I would say that there is there is a male loneliness epidemic. There are men that are lonely. There's male loneliness. There's female loneliness. But there's also, I would say, there's a male solitude renaissance. Men are waking up to the reality of the world that they live in, and it's not playing by the old rules. So they have to change the way that they play the game in order to enjoy their lives as best as they can, because that's the whole point. Nobody wants to be in an uncomfortable state throughout their whole 60 to 80 years of life, maybe even longer or shorter, depending if you get hit by a bus or not, right? But yeah, loneliness is when you want connection and you cannot find it. That's loneliness, okay? But solitude is when you have decided that the connection being offered doesn't meet the minimum standard, right? Men are they're developing these things called standards that are apparently not okay, that are pathologized, but it's completely normal. Especially, I think it's a very honest and accurate response to what's going on in the culture here, in the midst of this culture war. And so a man who has spent 20 years in low quality, high maintenance relationships, for example, whether that's people jobs or these various institutions, right, that he relies on, unfortunately, that man is choosing solitude. And it's not a symptom of a problem. It's a symptom, I would say, of growth. It's a symptom of consciousness. It's being aware, right? And a symptom of awakening. And so I think that Viktor Frankl, he has a good insight into this, right? A man who survived the worst thing a human being can survive, and he came out the other side arguing that the last true human freedom is the freedom to choose your own response to any given situation. That's it, man. That's the whole thing, right? That's exactly what these men are doing, right? They're choosing their response. They're not creating any type of chaos in this scenario. There is anger there. I think that's a genuine emotion, but the way that they are responding, it's not out of revenge, but they're wanting to cling to peace, right? They are choosing peace where they can find it. And I would say that the world is very angry about that. But why? Why is the world angry about it? But I want to pivot real quick to just the cost, right? I want to talk about the cost of peace, the cost of getting here to that place, because it's not free. Because the men who arrive at this kind of deliberate and quiet and chosen existence, they did not get here without going through something first, right? I didn't get where I am today without going through something first. Nobody decides one day just randomly to protect their peace. Something had to happen to them first, right? They had to have something break, some type of betrayal or loss, right? They had to have some extended, slow drain of their energy that finally they hit rock bottom, right? They experienced a divorce that just took everything from them financially, emotionally, mentally, right? Or a career that it ended up taking a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades of their life, right? Backbreaking work. They invested, they were loyal, and they get a freaking pink slip, right? Maybe it's a health scare. A lot of people end up having health scares that really just jar them. And then whatever the case is, these men got here because they paid their dues, right? In full, okay? And they gained clarity from this, from paying their dues, right? This, I would say it feels cold. This clarity, it's a bit cold. But it's a clarity about what they will and will not accept. You know, what's worth their time. Like, what is worth it, what's not, who gets access to them, who doesn't. And yeah, some people, they lose access when that happens, right? Justly so. And those people some of them are angry about it. And that anger, that specific anger from people who are used to having unlimited access to this particular man's life and his energy and his emotions, that anger, I think it's very revealing. I think it's very telling. Because here's what that anger tells you. It tells you that the peace was expensive, right? That particular someone was benefiting from their anguish and the chaos that they were causing in that man's life. Right? That someone, they had a stake in that man remaining in a state of perpetual reactivity. Right? This man was perpetually in this cycle of performing, improving, and doing all of these things. And when he stopped doing that, when he stopped performing for this person, the disruption it causes in those people, in those other people, it tells you everything you need to know about what was happening before he stopped, right? And I think that's sad. I think that's really sad, but it's so real. And what does this actually look like, right? Because I want to keep this concrete, okay? A man protecting his peace in his 40s, it looks like this, okay? He's not in the comment section arguing with strangers, okay? He's done with that, right? I'm done with that. I'm done arguing with you people. Like that, not all of you, the ones that the trolls and the bots, but the family gatherings, dude, having to explain himself to these people, and then they've already made their minds up about him. He's done with that, right? He's not chasing this validation from them or this culture that he lives in that's made it very clear that he does not, that it doesn't value him, right? He's woken up, right? He wakes up, he does the work, he takes care of what is his. That's what he's doing now. He invests in the relationships that have been proven over time to be reciprocal. He's got standards now, man. Sorry, right? Right, standards for his time and his energy, his bandwidth, right? For who gets to be in his orbit. And those standards, they're the right kind of selfishness. Okay? They're a logical response, a logical result of a man who's finally started taking himself as seriously as he always took everyone else. You know? For a lot of these men, taking themselves seriously, I mean genuinely, right, without any apology, it's a completely new concept. Because they spent years, right? They spent their entire adult lives just taking everyone else more seriously than themselves, right? In their job and in their marriage, the approval and the expectations and the performance, all of it. And at some point, it was enough, just enough, dude. You know what? I think younger men need to hear this too. They do. Because there is a version of this conversation that makes, I don't know. There's a version of this conversation that makes it sound like a defeat, right? Like men over 40, they've checked up because the world broke them, right? It beat them senseless. I want to be accurate in what I'm saying. I don't want to lead you off the trail. The men that I'm talking about, maybe they didn't check out. Maybe they're finally checked in, right? They checked in with themselves. They finally have recalibrated. They've checked in with themselves. For a lot of them, it's the first time in their adult life. Their adult life, right? They stopped spending energy on what was never going to fill them up. It took them a while to figure that out. They checked in with themselves and they started spending it all this time and energy on what actually matters now, right? And for some reason, the people around you, the world around you, They are like, oh, they've given up. Maybe in a way, maybe that is true. We've given up on you. We've given up on this status quo existence that's not working, right? Things have to adapt and change. I think wisdom comes with that, right? Hard won, expensive, real wisdom, for God's sakes. And there's nothing to be mourned in that. I think that there's something to be respected, honestly. And if you're over 40 and you've gone to that place, right? You've gotten quieter and more reserved and more compartmentalized, and the people around you, they just do not understand it, right? You've been more selective. You've checked these boxes that I'm talking about. Then they keep calling you all these labels, basically just summarizing you as a problem. It may not be a problem at all. It may be the most lucid, self-respecting decision you have made in years, dude. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to be 41 July, and I started going through individuation in my late 30s. Left the Catholic Church in my late 30s, and I ripped that foundation out and have found a new one that is a lot more freeing. And I just want to be able to express that to you, right? If you're going through something, if you're burdened in some way, I want you to know that, okay? That's why I'm making this video, okay? I care about you. I want the best for each and every one of you. All right. And I've helped a lot of you out, which is amazing. It's a humbling experience to talk to a lot of you, engage with you one-on-one, those that have booked calls with me, those that have bought my book. And those links are down below if you want to go check it out. And that's really my goal. I just want to be able to create authentic content for people so that for men. It's for men, okay? This is a men's space. And I want to be able to help men who feel broken, they feel lost, they feel alone. They're having a dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul. Because that's a lot of you. I've been there. And there's no greater feeling than finally integrating your shadow and understanding your true nature, everyone else's true nature, seeing the world clearly. Yes, it's a threshold that you can't walk back through, but I wouldn't change anything. And it is freeing. It's hard, but it's freeing.